Hello. How's it going? Welcome back to New World Angel. I want to dig into this case in Hamden, Ohio, where those 16 children were found in that house in just like deplorable conditions, and like police were even shocked that they were pleasantly surprised that they didn't find cages in the room. Like, I mean, it's just disgusting. But I have a hunch that Ohio is a mecca for trafficking children. Same with Indiana. So with that, I want to dig into this storyline a little bit and see if something doesn't come out that needs to come out. So angels and ancestors, that's what we're looking for. What has yet to surface about this storyline that absolutely needs to come out? Were they a part of a larger organization, or was this just a localized awful family? So I am going to pull some of my cards. I don't know what's going to come out, but I think it's relevant to state that just because a good card or a card with good energy comes out doesn't mean that these people are good. It just means that there are good and evil within all of us. Okay? So no one person is inherently all good or all bad. I think that needs to be stated here, but we want information in regards to what just pertinent information. Polarity. Yeah, there's a lot of polarity in this story in a sense that like some people were aware that they had kids, others weren't. Like the neighbors had no fucking idea that 16 children, first of all, that children at all lived in the home, let alone 16. That's polarity in and of itself. You know, acting one way inside the home, but then going outside and actually going to work. I think one of them somehow was able to manage to a job. But, I've done some research on it, but I haven't dug into it like investigatively. It just sort of piqued my interest. And then I'm going to do somewhat of a more fun one, if you can even say that, after this. Yeah, I'm going to get into something else. So, let's see. Protect us as we do this reading. We only want pertinent information that has yet to surface about these people that did the awful things to the children, or about the children themselves. Apparently, Elizabeth, the girl, the mother to these children, she had given birth to like multiple sets of twins. And if that's the case, is there a tie to the hospital system? Which I already know from my storyline that not all hospitals are created equal. So were they hiding this information? Did they just not go to the hospital? Or, you know, they ended up receiving, I think, like, the children received their first, you know, they were seen initially by a doctor. And then just never seen again. So, in that sort of way, is there any sort of liability placed on the fact that, like, you know, there should have been some level of follow-up about the children, like, hey, they haven't come back for X, Y, and Z, or I don't know. I just think the whole thing is just a little odd. But yeah, how do you manage to have multiple sets of twins and not even be hospitalized? And they did say that some children were likely to have perished in this whole thing. Active growth. Yeah, it's a growing storyline. It's getting a lot of attention. See if we can make gifted speaker. Gifted speaker could mean me, or could be the fact that like some of these children, they could be gifted speakers, but they don't have the ability to speak. Or somebody spoke up. What else? I want it just on these children or the family members. What else do we need to know about them? Uncle. Was an uncle involved? Does Gary have a sibling? Gary is the father. There's Gary and then Gary Sr. Active growth. Again. Gifted speaker with active growth. They'll be back for better or worse. They'll be back. Maybe police even made a... Were police ever called to the house? I think that's how it was uncovered, was that a welfare check was done. But have there been incidences before where a welfare check was done? You just broke a hex or a curse. Ancestors are so proud. Well, yeah, that this whole thing was just uncovered. Maverick and Goose. It was a duo. But was the duo the mother and the son? Or was it the two grandparents that were also living in the house? Kind of seems like there's multiple sets of, like, I consider this dynamic duos, multiple sets of dynamic duos, not only twins, but the fact that they work together, the mother and the father and the grandparents, or both sets together. Quality reporting. Yeah. Finally getting out there. Multilingual. Maybe the kids even had to develop their own communication style. I mean, it was said that like for like the last 4 years that some of these kids were trapped in that room. You think that was enough time for at least some of the older ones who may have picked up on some language skills to develop their own language system? It's not uncommon for little kids to do that. You know, it's a part of like imagination anyway, but, you know, when forced to, you know, communicate in a different way, they can make things up. Gosh, there's a whole bunch of different stories. But didn't Elizabeth Smart like have some sort of like, different form of language skills? Like, I know that she spoke in like biblical terms a lot, but there was something about that. Multilingual. polygamist. Multiple partners. Multilingual. Multiple partners. Yeah. Dauntless. The kids had to be brave throughout this. And so did the people that, like, uncovered it, you know? The people, like the police or whomever uncovered it. Under the age of 13. Maverick and Goose. They're partnering up with, well, yeah, it's no secret that they're likely abusing these children, but who's to say they're not involving the children in getting other children involved under the age of 13? But the children really didn't have any friends. Competition. I get under the age of 13 competition as like survival of the fittest. Sexual tension. Right next to multilingual. People will always have something to say next to polygamist. What sort of affiliations did they have to, like, polygamy? And they don't even have to have, like, actual affiliations. It could just mean, you know, they were just polygamous on their own, multiple partners. You know, whether it was the dad with the mother and then children, or the grandfather with the grandmother and the daughter that, you know, the mother of these children. They all lived in the same house. What else? Sexual tension, the thought of you makes them smile. Yeah, it's something that they got off on. Maybe even the fear of the children too is something that they enjoyed, you know, the control. You don't awaken just once, it's a series of forgetting and remembering. Could use insanity as a defense. Dementia, some sort of mental health issue to get out of this, at least the grandparents. Let me get into the tarot. Tarot always gives me more anyway. I don't like this. Give me the vibe on just the mother and the father of these children. I really need to get another true crime deck. Exhausted. Psychopath, abusive, conniving, and unpredictable. So these children were just like, ugh, breaks my heart. Two-faced, yeah, double life. Cheater and backstabber. Antisocial. In their feelings, silent treatment, left out. Give us just energy on the mother and father of these children. Thrills, continuous cycles, bad decisions, addictions. It wouldn't surprise me if this is something that they experienced growing up, mother and father. This is what I mean by generational curses, people. You know, abuse and neglect. Maybe they went through that as a child, never healed, and then, you know, bring children into the world and hurt people, hurt people. Mother and father. Longing, missing you, let's talk, reunion. Were they in some sort of like, the mother and father, were they in some sort of like long-term relationship before they had children, or like they were separated for some reason? This is energy on just the mother and father. Healing, self-care, introspection, meditation. Well, they need healing, that's for damn sure. Envy, resentful, competitive, discontent. That's the second card of competition. More. Let's get some on the grandparents. On Gary Sr. and what's her name? I don't know. The grandmother. Well, the grandparents are broke as fuck. What, were they just using this as a ploy to get, like, welfare checks? Was this a government assistance program, like, fraud scheme, you know? Like, basically, let's have more kids to get more benefits? This is on the grandparents. Screenshots. Caught in 4K, saving receipts, facts over feelings. They may have even been, like, exploiting these children. Or certainly, like, evidence is on their phone. I mean, everyone in the house knew, you know. It's not like you can live in a 1,300 square foot home and not know what's going on. Legal issues, yeah. Facing court matters, paperwork, and delays, dealing with authority. Kissing ass, they're probably trying to cooperate with authorities. I want to know why. Why did they have so many children? We split right on justice. Why did this couple have so many children? The Knight of Swords. Because they didn't use protection. They didn't protect themselves. They just, obviously. Yeah, they just allowed shit to happen. It was like, oh, another pregnancy. Yeah, there's no proactive, like, forethought here at all about consequences. Why did they have so many children? Because they would get some sort of kickback. It was a government program fraud scheme, just to live off the money that they would get from the government. Who came up with the idea of this scheme? Or did it just happen naturally? What else, Spirit? Did the police know about this family? Did they have suspicions? Did the police have suspicions about this family? Judgment in the reverse. The police were aware of this. Was this family a feeder family into the foster system? The world Well, if they were, that cycle's coming to an end. Was this family a feeder family to the foster system? Having children, get paid, they get their medical bills paid for by people who are adopting these children. They kept some of them, possibly sent a few out for adoption so they could get a kickback there. Hospital's really good about managing to that information. Was this family a feeder family to the foster system? Queen of Cups in the upright. I think it started off that way. They had good intentions. Six of Wands in the reverse. Yeah, it was. It was so that the visual of them could be shown in, like, oh no, these people do good. Like they did the right thing. But then they squandered the money. Anything that came in as a part of that. Yeah, no, it was like, this is the polarity that we saw in the beginning. Look, it's like one way they're shown this way. Like, oh no, this person would never do that. And then over here, dude's all pompous. So, two-faced, for sure. Was there some sort of weird competitiveness between the daughter and the mother here? And I just got chills all over. Is there some sort of like weird competitiveness? You know, maybe the daughter came into the picture and not only does she have the attention of the son, but then possibly the grandfather too. That could be the reason why she was getting pregnant, is not only she was being, you know, she herself was being abused by the husband, but it could also have been the grandfather too. And so therefore it was just a constant revolving door of pregnancies. That would not surprise me. Did the mother have a weird competitiveness with the daughter? Because there is envy here. Resentful, competitive. Seven of Cups. Seven of Cups in the reverse, too. This is all sorts of twisted. Yeah, it was fucked up thinking for sure. on everyone's part. Mental health issues. Psychosis. Exactly. No spiritual protection. Complete loss of any sort of like higher power, higher source. Just disgusting. Possibly even while they were asleep. I mean, there's not a lot to uncover about this storyline because they're obviously just all guilty, but I wanted to see if something else popped out. But yeah, I do think that there was some level of competitiveness between the mother and the daughter. You know? The mother could have had something to do with, like, the grandmother could have had something to do with the fact that, like, the kids weren't to have been seen. I wonder if the grandmother, she only had one kid, huh? Unless Gary does have a son, like another son. In which case, her, you know, the daughter's ability to birth all these children, that could have been the envy of the grandmother right there. You know? And then not only she is, you know, wanted by her son, but also the grandmother's husband, too. All I know is that I'm so glad the children are out and that they can hopefully start the journey of healing. Let's just hope they get placed in something better than what they were in, because that is disgusting. But anyway, that was my take on the Hamden 16 children in Ohio story. So I'll see you guys later for the next one. Okay.